All right, well, let's jump to the end of this week's Torah portion, Torah reading, and let's go on to the HafTorah, which is pretty interesting. And then we'll see if tomorrow and the next day we can finish the HafTorah and maybe do a little bit of Eicha, the book of Lamentations, 5 chapters written by Jeremiah the prophet. Okay, here Moses is telling the Jewish people off. The Jewish people have made a lot of trouble for God and for Moshe and etc. And God wanted to wipe them out a few times, and Moses always stood up for them. And in the end, really, God revealed that he really loved the Jewish people anyway, and he was just waiting for Moshe to intercede. So Moshe is explaining how the Jewish people came up to shortly after they got out of Egypt. They were given the chance to go into the land of Israel, and they refused. Right, and they refused, and God said, "Okay, you're going to wander around 40 days." Moshe is repeating this whole thing over, right? Then they stayed for Har Seir, this place called Har Seir, many days. Now, Har Seir, I never got a picture over here. This is the land of Edom. Where is this? Over here. It's supposed to be somewhere over here. Too small. Maybe we can make it bigger. Oh. Here it is. No, that's Har Sinai. Doesn't have the picture over there. Anyway, wherever Har Seir is, and make it bigger. I don't know if it'll help or not. All right. So he's saying we're over here on Har Seir. It's somewhere over here, and God says to me, Rav lechem, sav harazeh, go around this mountain and go tzafona, to the north. It says, what does it mean? Go to the east side, and from the south, you're going to travel to the north. That's what it is over here. See? Yeah, it's somewhere over here. It doesn't have it listed. This is where we're going. So he said, leave here and go up. It must be listed. It's just not clear to me. I can't see. Okay. It says, let's go up to the north. So that's where they're going. The Jewish people are now traveling. This is nearing the end. Says the Kli Yakar, many people say that this sentence is talking about the hint at the future generations. Going around the mountain, they're going to go around. God is going to surround the Jewish people and gather them all together, because the Jewish people that are wandering around in the whole world, God has not given them the power so they can travel everywhere until Shiavo Mishene Amar, until it will come the Mashiach, where it says his feet will stand on that day on the mountain of Olives. And all the time that the Jewish people are walking around and around like they're walking in the desert back then, is it says Panu lechem tzfona, go to the north. What does it mean? Go to the north. Perdurshu bazeh megia shato, and see if the time of Esav hitzpinu atzmechem, that they will hide themselves. Now Esav, interestingly enough, I'm going to throw in my own 2 cents over here. Esav is generally the church. Edom, that's Romi. It always says Romi. So I think we can look forward to seeing the church being, how do you say, taken apart. That's the idea of Esav. The people, I said, you are now going into the land of Esav, that's in the mountain of Seir. Be very, very careful. Don't make war with them, because I have not given them their land until Midrach Kaf Regel. Says, what does it mean, Kaf Regel? we just finished reading the Kli Yakar. Kli Yakar said until the Mashiach comes and his feet will be on Har Zaitim. That's what he says. And Rashi says the same thing. The Haggadah says, Ad Shiabo Yom Drisat Kaf Regel on Mount Zaitim. That's what, like it says, V'yamdu, the Mashiach. It says his feet will stand on Har Zaitim. And the Rebbe explains, what does it mean? That oil is a metaphor for wisdom. And the source of wisdom are the grapes. And the source of the grapes is the mountain. And this is the Mashiach is going to be a person with such tremendous deep wisdom that his feet, the lower part of his being, will stand on the highest level of wisdom. Okay. He says, therefore, this is an inheritance I've given to Abraham. Eser Amim. What do you mean? Why Esav is part of? He says, yes, that's Edom. I promised Abraham 10 nations. We've spoken about this a lot of times. I promised him 10 nations, and I only gave him 7. 7, Shiva Lechem, 7 are for you, and Kini, and the Kenizi, and Kadmoni, which are Ammon, Moab, and Seir. Seir is Edom. One of them I've given to Esav, that's Esav is Edom. And the other 2 were given to the daughters of Lot, Moab and Ammon. Because the daughters of Lot went with him in the desert, and they kept quiet about what it said about Achoto, etc. It was Ammon and Moab, the one kept quiet. In any case, those 2 lands became theirs, and eventually I'm going to give them to the Jews. It says, now I'm going to bring you to the land of Esav. What do we say that is here? That's over here. It's in the north. All right, so now you're going to the land of Esav. And don't start war with them. I didn't promise them. They're going to be put into your hands by the Mashiach. It's not your job to defeat them. You can buy from them food with money and eat, and water also. Buy from them with money. Don't take anything by force. And because God blesses you in everything that you do, He knows that you're going in the desert, this great desert, 40 years, and God is with you. You're not going to be lacking anything whatsoever. Therefore, what? Lo tachfu tovato. Do not deny. Don't be ungrateful. And pretend like you're really poor people and you need something. But no, show that everybody that you're rich and that you have everything, and don't ask mercy from anybody. And we went from our brothers Esav that sit in Seir, and we turned to the desert of Moab. Then they went to Moab. Where is this? Let's see. Turn over here, and then we're going up. Now they're going to go up into the lands of Moab. That's Sichon, the king of Moab. And they're going to conquer that. And then there's Og, king of Bashan. They're going to go and conquer that. And, I have pictures. And these are going to be the lands that are going to be given to Gad and Reuven and half of the tribe of Manasseh. I have these pictures over here. 1 second. Let me just, that I could refer to. Right. Okay, half of the tribe. Manasseh, he gets on the top, and God is in the middle. Here we go. Yeah. Okay. And God said to me, don't lay siege to Moab. Like we said before, Moab, because there came from Moab, Ruta Moaviyah. And also, one of the wives of King Solomon also came from that. Don't start war with him, because I didn't give his land. I gave the sons of Lot, I gave the inheritance. What does it mean? Don't make war, but you can scare them. That's why it says Vayogar Moab. That's why it says later on, what we had previously when Bilam, that he said Yogar, he was very afraid that they were, you could go and take from their lands, take spoil from them. But Ammon, it says it's okay. You can even scare them. You can even make war with them, etc. But because their mother was Senua, that she didn't advertise the fact that her father, okay, Moab. What happened over there? You remember the story? Lot ran away from, there was Sodom and Amorah. There were like 5 metropolises of cities that were all totally decadent and cruel. Also, they were cruel. They would kill people. They were big sadistic. So God said, I'm going to destroy them. And it happened to be that Lot, who was the direct relative of Abraham, was living in one of these lands. So an angel came and said to Lot, you better get out of here. So Lot ran away with his 2 daughters and his wife looked behind them. He told her not to look behind. She looked behind and she turned into a pillar of salt. So it ended up he ran away with his 2 daughters. Those 2 daughters thought that was it. There was nothing, the world was being destroyed, and that there wasn't going to be any world. So suddenly they got the idea, we have to make children, right? We have to have children. Where are children going to come from? There's only one man in the whole world, and that's Daddy. So they got him drunk. So he got drunk 2 nights in a row and had relations with him. And they both gave birth to children. One of them called the child from Daddy, Moav. This child is from Daddy. That's the name of from father, Moav. And the other one called her child Ammon. Right? Ammon. She didn't call him Moab. So because she was modest and she didn't go advertising the fact that this child comes from my father, so because of that, they weren't allowed to make war with Ammon, only with Moab. To scare, I'm sorry. I gave this to the daughters of Lot, the sons of Lot, grandsons of Lot. And then the Emim and etc. The tremendous. There was a nation called the Amim, and they were huge giants over there, Ka'anakim. He said this is the land of the Rephaim. We'll see. This is where does it say? It's going to be next year. Rephaim Yechashav. Now, who are the Rephaim? The Rephaim were these angels that fell down like in the time of the flood, and they were really immense, and they were also big sinners. So it says, you thought this land is the Rephaim, that I got this land to Abraham, because the Amim are the same thing as the Amim. These Amim are the same thing as the Rephaim. They lived there before, but it's not so. These Rephaim, the people of the Rephaim that I said I'll destroy, he gave those to the daughters, the sons of Lot, Ammon and Moab. And I said, they're sitting there in their place. In any case, then there's the Rephaim, they're huge, and the Moabim, they called them Amim. Their names were really Rephaim, but they called them Amim. In other words, they were really huge people that came from the heaven. And we're going to see that the only one that was left of them was this Og, so he was huge. We'll see in a minute. Uba Seir, this place of Seir, which that becomes Edom, there lives these people called the Chorim, Lefanim. Now, what are we going through all this? This is explaining the different nations that Moshe conquered before the Jews went into the land of Israel. And these lands, they're what's called east of the Jordan River. These lands eventually were going to be settled by, Reuven and Gad, and one half of the tribe of Manasseh. The other half of Manasseh they received in the land of Israel. Menashe inherited a huge area of an inheritance. Bnei Esav, and they, etc. Just like Ka'asher Asa Yisrael L'Eretz Yerushaso Asher Natan Hashem Lahem, that there were other nations that were arguing, that were fighting one with the other before the Jews came and conquered them all. 1 second. It's gotten stuck. What happened? 1 minute. Technical problems here. Everything got stuck, frozen. Ah, there it is. Good. Okay, so it says now go over the place called Nachal Zerad, and they went over Nachal Zerad, and etc., etc., and they went and they conquered this place, and the hand of God was also on these people, and He destroyed them, just like it on the people of the Milchama. Okay. And God spoke to me, and He said, "Now, today you are going into Moab." Now again, they're going from the south into north. Here, this is the Moab. What is the land of Moab? Actually, there's another picture that I can show you that this one doesn't have so well. Oh, here he says it's Edom over here. 1 minute, where are we over here? Ah, I see. Okay. No, here it's over here. No, it doesn't go this way. Here. Oh. This is the Kinneret. This is the Yam HaMelech. Here is Moab. I see. I got the picture a little bit long over here. Okay. This is Har Seir. This is the Har Seir that they started off with. I see it was outside of the picture, right? This is the boundary of Israel. This is the Jordan River. This is on the other side. Here is Moab. This is Edom, where we just were. This is Har Seir. This is Edom. And it moves up. This is Moab. We're going to conquer Moab. And then Emori. Let's see. Sichon is. Let's see. There we go. The people of Ammon. Go click the couple of people of Ammon, but don't make them a war because I didn't give the land of Ammon to you yet. Yes. It says it's the land of the Rephoim. These giants are there, and they lived there. And the Ammonim, they called them Zamzumim. Says the Or HaChaim. It's a different Or HaChaim over here. 7. All right. Just like you did to the people of Esav, you'll conquer them. I'm sorry. What's it? We skipped one. Am Gadol V'Ram Ka'anakim. These people over here, the Zamzumim, they are huge giants. And God will destroy them in front of you, and you can inherit them and take them over, just like you did to the son to Esav. Asal Livnei Esav, that sit in Seir, that just like the Bnei they did to the Chori before them, and they inherited them. In other words, don't worry, Jews, you're taking over people that they themselves have been conquerors from some other place. There's the Avim that were in Chatzerot. You conquered them, and etc. and etc. It goes through. Kumu, stand up. Se'u v'ivru et Nachal Arnon. Go over Nachal Arnon. I've given Sichon, the king of Heshbon, the Melech Heshbon HaEmori, and his land. Go and conquer it. Today I have given you your fear on all of the nations. Conquer them and take them all over. And I will send, and then, but what, 1 minute. I've somehow or other skipped over here. Sorry. Yeah, that's right, okay. V'yeter Gilad and Kol Bashan, from Og, I gave that half of a tribe of Menashe, that's over here. That's over here. The tribe of Menashe, that was up here. Here. This is Og Melech Bashan. This area was given to Menashe also. I gave to the Shevet Menashe all the of the Argov, and all of Bashan is called Eretz Rephaim. Now the Or HaChaim asked a question. What do you mean he gave the land of the Amori? Says he gave them the land of the Amori. Oh, Sichon Melech Amori. Right? He gave them the Sichon Melech Amori. So 1 minute. Sichon was and he gave that. Sichon was the king of the Amori, and they lived where? On the other side. Here, this is Sichon. Here, this is the Amori. 1 minute, but the Amori, that was one of the nations that God promised to Abraham in the land of Israel. And here they're on this side. So the Or HaChaim is going to ask that question. He's going to say, Halom Etzinu, don't we find that the Amori also were mentioned in the 7 nations that God gave to the Jewish people when they came to the land of Israel? This is one of the 7 nations in Israel, not on the other side of Israel. This is Sichon, like it says in Midbar, Sichon Melech Amori. It says Vayeshev Yisrael Ba'arei Amori. If so, there comes the question: is the word of the Sifri? It says, don't worry, it's not a question, because the mountains of the Amori, which are mentioned by Sichon, this is not the same thing that God gave to Abraham. Like it says later on, there was a different Amori. Cheshbon ir Sichon. And he took all of his lands from his hand. So what happened? Sichon, he took the lands from Moab. And if you remember correctly, it said that God told Moses not to make any trouble for Moab, but as soon as Sichon conquered his land, so he'll say, okay, I'm not making trouble for Moab, I'm making trouble for Sichon. It just happens to be he took over your land. So if we saw the land of Sichon, Moab belonged to Moab, but Sichon called it Amori. Why did he call it Amori? Because Sichon shehaya melech al Amori ola olam lo ba bigalal matan shiva omim. Sichon was really the king of the Amorites, but he couldn't take it over because it was one of the lands that God promised Abraham. So therefore Sichon took over this land of Moab, and he called it Amori, and that's why he took it over. Okay, Yoir ben Menashe, and etc. Let's just go to the end. And Yoshua. So it's talking about all these lands. Moshe is repeating back to the Jewish people what he's done for them. Took them out of Egypt, gave them, and all the time they're making trouble. And now Moshe is repeating. At Yoshua, Tzivesi and Yoshua, I commanded at that time. And I said, Einecha haraos, your eyes have seen. Everything that God has done to the 2 kings, so God will do also to all the kings that you're going to conquer when you come into the land of Israel. In other words, do not be afraid. But Isahi, why does it say Isahi? This is the time when he made the condition. This is right before they went in. So Bnei Gad and Bnei Reuven, remember we learned last week in Parshas Matos Maseh, that Bnei Gad, the tribe of Gad and Reuven, they said, we don't want any land in Israel. We'll go and fight, we'll conquer, but we want our portions to be over here. So as soon as Bnei Reuven, they said, Yud hamichush al derech shipirashti b'pasuk hakodem lezeh, and they said lemor. So when he saw that Gad and Reuven, they started to make up laws on their own, and they said we want to take land over here. Omori said, "Be'esahi lashon zeh atzmo lezeh." This is what he said. Lemor ki mikivan shamar marhu Od yirtzeh shitzivi more, because I want to say more things to the Jewish people when they come into the land of Israel. So in other words, right now, don't be afraid. As soon as Gad and Reuven said, we don't want to go on, we don't want land in the land of Israel, so Moshe cut them off, and he said, you don't want to go in and fight, how can it be? And that's why he turned to Yoshua, and he said, listen, you see that there's some people that are trying to make the Jews to lower their morale. As I'm telling you now, be strong, you're going to have to fight against them. And the same God that destroyed Sichon and Og, as they're going to destroy also the nations, the 7 nations that are there also. Lo tirum, don't be afraid, because God is with you. He will fight for you. Lo tirum, even though that he spoke to Yeshua, and he said, in plural, to include all of the Jewish people, right? Lo tirum, you, plural, should not be afraid. Even though God was only saying this to Yeshua, why was he speaking in plural? He says, because the message was for all Jewish people, that there shouldn't be even one Jew that is afraid of the nations that are in Israel. Even though that they're more in number and in size than the Jews, don't be afraid. And like I said, lemor means, and so he says, lemor. I commanded Yeshua that he should say this over to the Jewish people. Right? He should say it to the Jewish people, Yidaber, and they promise them that there won't be any trouble, that God is going to be with you. And now let's see if we can learn a little bit, we can at least begin the HafTorah of this week. Let's see, okay. See if this works. Here it is. This is the HafTorah of this Shabbat. So let's learn a little bit of it. It's pretty harsh. It's a pretty harsh HafTorah. These 3 HafTorahs that we have, these 3 weeks, are Yeshaya, the prophet Yeshaya, really sternly reprimanding the Jewish people and telling them that you got to watch out, you're going to get destroyed. And sure enough, then he prophesied that the 10 tribes in the north, which they were even worse, they were really worshiping idols, and he saw them all taken away into captivity. And Yeshaya the prophet, and in his life, there stood up a king, Manasseh. And Manasseh was the king of Yehuda. Manasseh was the son of Chezkiyahu HaMelech. The Chezkiyahu HaMelech, most of the prophecies that Isaiah made about Mashiach were speaking about Chezkiyahu HaMelech, or they're talking about all the Jewish people. But Chezkiyahu HaMelech, he was a very holy person, and he had a son, Chezkiyahu HaMelech, who was one of the most evil Jews of all time, and his name was Manasseh. And just to sort of illustrate how evil he was, he killed Yeshaya. Manasseh, the king Manasseh, had Isaiah the prophet killed him. It's pretty weird. Can't get much worse than that. And Isaiah is prophesying to the Jewish people, you fellows are really off the track, you're doing everything wrong. And what's going to be, but finally he ends up with words of encouragement. So the Jewish people will be redeemed. Don't worry about it. You fellows are really, off the track, but God still loves you. You're doing everything you can to make God mad, and God is mad. But the fact is, He still loves you. We'll see that. That'll be in the end. But still, this is one of the HafTorahs. There's 3 HafTorahs which are bad. right? A perennials of punishment. And then there's going to be Sheva the Nechemta. After the Tisha B'Av, there are 7 HafTorahs that are comforting the Jewish people. But this, as bad and severe as it is, and it really gets severe, and he was actually prophesizing the destruction of the temple, as severe as it, but in the end he says, don't worry, God still loves you. We'll see. Chazan Yeshayahu ben Amoz, the vision of Yeshayahu, the son of Amoz. Amoz was a prophet, and they say that he was the brother of one of the kings of Israel. Amoz v'Amatzia. Asher Chaza, that he saw about Yehuda and Yerushalayim. In the day of Uziyahu, Yotam, Achaz, Yechezkiyahu, these are the kings. Achaz and Yechezkiyahu, the king of Yehuda. Isaiah prophesied something like 65 years. How long was it? Something like that. He prophesied, he lived a long life. So when he was killed, he lived a long time. He's 86 years. It says he prophesied 86 years. We'll go over the explanations a little bit. Let's just go through the sentences a little bit. The prophecy of these were the kings. Uziyahu was a king. After that, Yotam. Achaz was a pretty bad king. Yechezkiyahu, and Chezkiyahu was the kings of Yehuda. Chazon is seeing. Habata, like Tachaz. Chazon means to view. That's why it's called a prophet by the name of Choseh. A prophet is called a Choseh. A prophet, that he sees things. Shimu Shamayim, listen to listen heavens. Hazinu Oretz. Pay attention, earth. Ki Hashem diber, God is speaking. Banim gidalti v'romamti. I gave birth to sons. The Jewish people are my sons, the sons of God. I provided for them, and I educated them, grew them up. Vehim pashubi, and they purposely sinned against me. What does it mean? Hazino means hate ozan. Listen to what I have to say, and also means haz ozan means also think a little bit. They sinned, mordu, they made a rebellion against me, like Melech Moav Pashubi. That the Jewish people have purposely rebelled against me. Yodah Shor Kaneo, the ox knows its owner, B'chamor Avos Balo, and a donkey knows where the feeding trough is. The Yisrael Lo Yadaot, and the Jewish people, they don't know. Ami Lo Tidbonen, my people, they're not thinking at all. They're not thinking for a moment. Hoi goy choteh, woe, a sinning nation. Am kaved oven, a people, a nation which has heavy sins. Zerem areim, a seed of evil. Banim mashchitim. What do you want to call it? Rotten children. Another word for rotten, depraved. Azvat Hashem, you've left God. Nyatzu et Kodesh, you have scoffed, you have rejected anything holy. Yisrael, Nazru Achor, the Jewish people have stumbled backward. They've turned their backs on me. Almatako, or why are you being smitten? Tosifu Sarah, because you continue to do sins. Kol Rosh Lacholi, your every head is sick. Every heart is another word for sick, tavai. In other words, you Jewish people, you're a bunch of sickos. What are you doing? You're worshiping idols. You're running after all sorts of perversities and crazy sins from the bottom of your foot until the top of your head. Ein Masam, there's no wholesomeness. Petza v'chabura, blemishes and wounds, maka tiriya, and fresh sicknesses, or what sicknesses? Festering wounds. Lo zoru v'lo chovushu, and no one's treating them. And you didn't even smear them with some sort of ointment or anything like that. You're just festering away, doing whatever you want to. And they have the first temple. Come on. I mean, the first temple is there, and they have everything they need. And what do? All sorts of bizarre sins. And the interesting thing is that God keeps giving them success. So it sort of lures them into thinking, hey, this is okay. It says in the Torah you're not supposed to do it. But they think to themselves, so it says in the let's see what happens. Right? Let's see what happens. I remember one time, this is right after I came to Israel, before I got married or anything. I was learning in the yeshiva. And somehow or other I got pneumonia. I didn't used to sleep very much or eat very much. I don't know what it was. In any case, so I got pneumonia. It's a whole big story. And pneumonia. And I got another story about when I had hepatitis, but here I had pneumonia. So they put me in, I was in the hospital with pneumonia. I think this is before I got married. Almost sure that it was. Anyway, so then I was sitting in the hospital, and there were people on both sides of me. So some guy comes in, and he says, he looks at me and says, oh, the big rabbi, the holy rabbi. He says, tell me something, Rabbi. I want to ask you a question. I do all the sins. Someone was coming and visiting, right? I do all the sins in the Bible. Everything. I don't murder people, but except for that, everything that I could do, I do. Here I'm healthy, and you're sick. Now you have to realize this guy is coming. He didn't come to visit me. He came to visit his friend who's laying there sick next to him. So he says to me, and tell me, I want to know another thing, he says. If God is so good, then why is my friend so sick, ill? So what am I going to say? I'm going to say your friend is ill because he does sins also. I'm laying there in the bed right next to him. You understand? And what am I supposed to say? The reason that you're healthy is because, what am I supposed to say? Because why is he healthy? So I thought to myself, look at this guy. He's complaining. What's the proof of God exists? That he's healthy and that I'm sick. And in the same breath, he says, what's the proof that God does not exist? Because his friend is sick. Right? Why should his friend be sick? If God really exists, why should his friend be sick and he's healthy? So I thought to myself, well, I don't understand. He's saying that, on one hand, that the proof that God doesn't exist is because he's healthy. On the other hand, the proof that God doesn't exist is because his friend that does sins is sick because he's a nice guy. He shouldn't. He's a nice guy. So I thought, Ribono Shalom, if this person would get sick, he would say, "Why does God exist? If God is good, then why am I sick?" So it doesn't make any difference what you do, right? A Jewish person can find a proof from anything that happens that God does not exist. God does not exist. So God says like this, listen, what am I going to do? I'm going to punish these people, the Jewish people. What are they going to say? Oh, if God exists, then why is he punished? Why are we getting this sickness for? He hasn't got any patience? God can't be patient? What type of a God is this? He can't be patient with the Jewish people? So, on the other hand, if God doesn't punish the Jews, so they'll say, oh, see, I'm doing sins and nothing happens. So God says, listen, in any case, they're not going to believe in me, what it is. So why should I punish them for nothing? If I punish them, then they're never going to repent, because they're all going to be all hacked up and all smitten and everything like that. And even if they do repent, so they're going to be all, broken. So I'll let them be healthy, and then hopefully they'll realize it on their own. They'll come back on their own. So that's what he says. Your land is going to be destroyed. Your cities will be burned. Your land will be set to fire right in front of your eyes. Strangers will eat up all your produce. And ushmama kamapechas zarim, and your land will be like a place that has been like a remnant, like Sdom v'Amorah. He says, "V'noslan Tzion k'Sdom." Israel will be like. I'm sorry. No. Sorry. 1 minute. That's right. Good. Bastion, the Jewish people, you have been left like the guardhouse in a vineyard. You know, the guardhouse. The guard just sits there. It's got basically nothing over there. Just it's a little place where maybe you can lay down and sleep. It's like a chicken coop in a field of b'maksha, in a, what is it here? He translated a field of gourds, like a city that has been besieged. If it wasn't for God that left some of you, that you would be like Sdom and Amorah. If God didn't have mercy and left a few of you, then you would be like Sdom and Amorah. And this had not happened yet. This is all a prophecy of what is going to happen. Hear the word of God. Shmu divrei Hashem kitzini Sdom. Listen to the word of God, you high officers of Sdom. Hazinu, and listen to the Torah, the word, the Torah of God, you people of Amorah. What's it going to be? God is saying, I don't need your sacrifices. I don't need this. Do tshuva, and we're going to talk about this word, God willing. Tomorrow we'll try to finish it, and we'll begin learning Eicha, Lamentations by Isaiah. Maybe this will snap us out of our sleep and our slumber. Of course, who are the real sinners over here? Who are the real sinners over there? We're not talking about the Jews in Israel that they don't know any better, or they just run around and they just do things like chickens or something, because that's the education that they've been given. They're the ones, the real problematic ones are people like me, that we know Torah and we do the commandments and we this, and we got no excuses. So if we get even a little bit angry, a little bit depressed, a little bit stupid, a little bit untruthful, we make a little lie, it's no big deal. You know, it says, ooh, there's no excuse. Then there's no excuse. And that's the people he was talking to. These people he's talking to are people that they knew the whole Torah. They knew everything. There was the Holy Temple. Everybody knew all the laws, right? They were all together in the land of Israel. It was a Medinat Halacha. It was all the things that you want. And nevertheless, the people, they decided they were going to do whatever they wanted to. But it also comes to show us something good, that no matter how bad the Jewish people can be, and they were pretty bad here, this is just about the worst, nevertheless, God still loves us. And he's going to say in the end that, don't do it again, but I'm going to give you another chance. And this, don't do it again, but I'm going to give you another chance, he's been saying this for like the last 3,300 years. And he still means it. That's what it means, Rav Lisloach. As we're going to learn, God willing, tomorrow. Oh, by the way, just wanted to tell everybody that when we did have the power breakage, the power stopped, and so I thought I lost the Likkutei Torah class, but I did not lose the Likkutei Torah class. Somehow it appeared again. It appeared. It came up, and I downloaded it so you can see it. Have a good day with Mashiach now.